Welcome to Workhorse Wrestling Network. You are here with us tonight for the Cookout podcast. We are down a couple workhorses tonight, but myself and Anika are going to give you something so that you don't go lacking for your cookout this week. We got to give you a little dose of something. So it is Tuesday night as usual, 7:30 p.m. or a little thereafter on the West Coast, 10:30 p.m. on the East Coast, where Anika is over there. So instead of watching Lucha Underground, because we're trying to do those when we're all together, we're going to do just a little quick review, I think, of AEW Collision Australia Grands. Since we weren't able to do the watch along since it was Valentine's Day night for those that celebrated, that night. And so, yeah, I think Anika was working anyhow, so... but I'm assuming you've got a chance to watch it by now. What was your overall assessment of the show before we get into each little match?
I loved it. And side note, it was after the All-Star game, right? So I was at my work. I'm like, hey, just All-Star game is on TNT. Watch, turn to that. And it's like, you don't have to change the channel. You don't have to, it's still sports coming on. It's fine. So I definitely got to watch it. Loved, like I said, it's crazy because all the hubbub about how we got here, right? It's like, oh, is it a pay-per-view? Oh, is it a TV special? And it's like, it was a good show. It was a great show, and I hope they try to do this. I hope they do this again next year because, it deserved more. It deserved more hype. You know what I'm saying? It deserved a bigger. What's the word? A bigger audience. More commercials. It deserved more to make it bigger. I haven't seen the numbers for it, but I definitely hope they go to Australia again. Yeah, it was.
I thought they had a good show. I thought the crowd was into it. Well, the crowd was definitely into it. I like that. Again, I mean, it looked like there was a lot of people there. I mean, it didn't look like they were hurting for selling tickets in Australia. So that's, something. I mean, obviously, ideally, you don't want to be hurting for selling tickets here domestically, which is where you are most of the time. But hey, everywhere you go, you want to have a good ticket turnout, right? So it did look like there were a lot of people there, and they looked like they were engaged wrestling fans. Sometimes you see people in audiences, especially internationally, where they're not always quite sure of what's going on. Maybe they're not, whatever the case may be. But these guys seemed to know what was going on. They were engaged, they were loud, and I thought it made it a lot of fun. Overall, I thought it was a very solid show. We'll get into it in just a minute. I think it was interesting who they chose to allow get over in their home country and who they didn't, or go over in their home country and who they didn't. In hindsight, it doesn't really surprise me. But for a minute, it felt a little WWE-ish.
They could have had one more person win from Australia. Let's just say,
which we'll get to. But yeah, no, I thought overall it was a very good show. I was very impressed. And I was speaking to my friend who I mentioned had been a little down on AEW recently. And I asked him, what you think? And he said, this is the AEW that I had been missing for a while. So for me personally, I'm not totally sure what exactly that means because it didn't feel any different to me. But at the same time, okay, whatever it is that makes people feel better, then fine. I mean, if they did something different that I didn't catch, then that's on me. But it didn't feel any different. I mean, Omega's back, and that's a big deal. So that is what it is, I guess. Maybe that's what it is to a certain extent. But no, the show felt big and it felt good. It was good, and I thought every match was solid. So. Without further ado, we might as well just get into it instead of hinting about it, right? So it did open with Takeshita and Fletcher of the Don Callis family, also with Mark Davis, versus Omega and Ospreay. And Fletcher Don Callis.
What? Let's make sure we keep it in check. Kyle Fletcher being the first Aussie in this Grand Slam Australia.
Yes, absolutely. They came out first, and then Omega came out last. And the crowd definitely loved Kenny Omega. Don Callis did double duty. He was at the announce table and at ringside, back and forth, trying to root his guys on and trying to get involved when he could. The match, what do you expect when you have Kyle Fletcher Takeshita, Will Ospreay, and Kenny Omega. I mean, if this wasn't going to, be the match of the night, I would be very surprised on paper just looking at it. And in my opinion, it still was match of the night even for opening the show. I thought it was amazing. There were a couple spots where I wasn't totally sure if there were botches or if they were supposed to go off that way. But there was a spot, I think it might have been Kenny tried to hit a poison Rana and it didn't work. And there was another one where I think both of them were Kenny situations, to be honest with you. And I'm wondering if that just isn't because he had been out for a minute and is just kind of getting his feet underneath him. But either way, listen, we're never happy, right? Or I'm never happy to a certain extent, right? If it's too choreographed, I complain about it looking too choreographed. And if it doesn't and it looks real, then it looks like they're botches. So, I'll take what it was. It looked fine. It looked real. It looked legitimate, like people trying to lift people up. And things just didn't happen right. Sometimes people cancel or counter. Sometimes people just don't, it doesn't happen right. And that's fine. I mean, too often we get things where it looks like everything's happening perfectly and it shouldn't be, right? So, but no, I mean, I absolutely loved it. I thought it was great. I thought the whole thing was good. Alice was great at ringside, and Kenny and Will getting the win feels right. I don't know that it feels like we're done with this, which may be okay. I mean, I think we're probably have more single situations here. I don't know. I definitely don't think we're done with Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay. Being that they're both extremely young and in AEW at the moment, and both on solid footing in AEW at the moment, I think we're going to see them for a long time to come as rivals back and forth. I mean, maybe at some time they'll even come together and be friends again. Who knows? But it'll be interesting to see what Kyle Fletcher's future looks like now that Mark Davis is back. Long term, whether they go back to actually being a tag team and that's where his focus is, or whether he's going to continue to be kind of a singles competitor. I am surprised, and I guess it's because it's Takeshita, and Takeshita's had the issue as well with Ospreay and Omega, but it seems odd that if Mark Davis is back, that Takeshita is Kyle Fletcher's tag team partner and not Mark Fletcher. Like, I get it. I guess Takeshita has maybe more, more, whatchamacallit, appeal. Bring people to the arena. I guess, appeal more, to his name than Mark Davis, more draw. So maybe that's it. But it just seems kind of odd when you have Mark Davis back and healthy that you're not using Aussie Open as a tag team. Instead, you've got Kyle Fletcher wrestling as a tag team with another person. Again, all that said, wonderful match. I thought it was an A+. I mean, even with the botches, I thought it was an A+. So, what'd you think?
So I definitely agree with this being the first match and not the last match, because the last match, we know what happens. But again, the great match. The thing about Kyle Fletcher not being with Mark Davis, I kind of get it, because it's like this is more sort of a mega power match. And even though Aussie Open as a tag team is a great tag team, this feels like, okay, we have it's Austin and Triple H versus Taker and Kane, and I feel like Mark Davis isn't big enough to beat Kane. That's just my opinion. But anyway, the poison round, I did see that, and it was this, and it was more so not even like botch or not. It was like, are y'all okay? Because like that's literally a neck power move. You can get hurt, so it's like, not sure what happened, but y'all good, y'all straight, y'all both got up, it's fine. I love the part where Kenny and Omega did the whole power up before they did the little dives. And I'm like, all right, y'all actually a tag team. That's so cute. So let's talk about it. First Aussie down did not win in Grand Slam Australia. Listen, not everyone has to win, but it really is a matter of, if you're not going to win, why? In this scenario, I want to say Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher are tied right now. They need a rubber match. Tell me if I'm wrong or not.
That's a really good question. I think that they might be, actually. I'm not totally sure. I'd have to look at that. Okay. But I know they've wrestled twice, and I'm pretty sure they're 1-1 now.
Right. Okay. So if they're tied, it is a tag team, I don't hate it because I guess even though he's a heel in his hometown, they were still behind Osprey and Omega. So it's like, okay, people aren't really cheering Kyle right now, so it's fine. So all in all, this is a great way to start Grand Slam. Yeah.
Yes. Second, we had Mercedes Moné versus Harley Cameron. I mean, I guess before we get into that real quick, I guess, this was the first match was one of those matches where if you were going to put over or have an Australian win, and like you said, he wasn't getting a whole lot of love from the fans, mostly because he's a heel, and mostly because Omega's there, and Omega is a fan favorite everywhere, right? So and Ospreay too, but even Omega more so. But this was one where it was 50-50, and I wasn't surprised that Omega and Ospreay won because it's Omega and Ospreay. At the same time, after it was over and done with, and there were basically four Australians in matches, I thought this was one of them that they could have had potentially go the other way and had an Australian win. But that said, Harley Cameron and Mercedes Moné was next. Mm-hmm. In a solid match. I mean, Harley Cameron, I thought, showed out. She had a good little intro. The crowd loved her. She was definitely over in her home country. This was, I thought, a testament to how good Mercedes is because, Harley Cameron really is still developing for all intents and purposes. And I thought she came off as really, really good. And the match came off really, really well. Mercedes did get the win, as she should. Here, this wasn't one that surprised me, honestly, that Harley didn't get the win. I mean, at one point I was thinking, they could let her get the win. Mercedes has 4 titles. It is what it is. At the same time, I'm thinking in my head, Tony wants to keep his belts all roughly at the same level. And the reality is that, like it or not, in her home country or not, Harley Cameron and Mercedes Moné are on extremely different levels. And if you take the belt off of Mercedes Moné and put it on Harley Cameron, I mean, no offense to Harley Cameron, but there is a definite decline there in notoriety, popularity, all those things. So, I understand in this situation why Harley didn't win. But that said, I thought she had a really good showing. I thought she looked really good. And I thought Mercedes looked really good. What did you think?
This was really fun. And like you said, for Harley Cameron, I want to say this is her 4th year wrestling, period. So her getting in the ring with one of the 4 horsewomen, and you do not suck. Congratulations, Harley Cameron. There was a couple of near falls where it's like, oh shoot, are y'all gonna do it? Oh, and that gets the match surprise, like, oh snap! All right, and then I love how they planned it out as well, because one of the best hype points of how they hype of this match was Harley Cameron and the CEO puppet, right? So them bringing them out could have been hokey, but somehow, some way, it was kind of like Santino Morella's Cobra. It felt like that. So in that aspect, it was not hokey. It wasn't stupid. It actually added to the match and that brought it down at all. So I actually was entertained by that. Crazy enough.
My only question about that was, is that not like a foreign object? How come that's not a disqualification? I was like, why is she just allowed to use the doll? Like, I didn't want her to be disqualified for it. I was surprised. Let's put it that way.
Listen. Like I said, and crazy enough, I was watching this with a bartender at my job, and he brought up Santino. He was like, "Oh, okay." So I'm like, "Wait, is it a foreign object?" He's like, Santino Morello about a sock puppet. I'm like, fair enough. As long as we can explain it. So I loved it. No, like you said, not surprised that she didn't win. Definitely think by the end of the year, if y'all want to run this back, definitely run this back. But great match, yeah.
Next, we had the Death Riders versus Jay White and Adam Copeland, or Cope. There was a period of time before I really knew anything about him that I thought Jay White was Australian, but then I realized that he was not. So, needless to say.
It's Australian. It's Australian adjacent.
Australian adjacent, exactly. So, let's see. What can't you say about this match? It was a Brisbane brawl, which is just another way to say no disqualification, and basically anything goes. It's your regular street fight, whatever. So, the Death Riders got the win over Jay White and Adam Copeland. If I'm not mistaken, I'm trying to remember exactly. Maybe you can remind me. At the very end, oh, that's right. Adam Copeland got choked out to end the match, and then they called the match, and then Mox went back to the choke again and choked him some more. And yeah, I mean, that was basically, if I'm not mistaken, the extent of the. And then everyone came down and broke them up and essentially protected. So, what do you think of this match and the ending and Moxley and them getting the win?
In my book, it's interesting, very interesting, because let's focus on the ending, right? So we already know they're going to do Adam Copeland versus John Moxley at Revolution, and crazy enough, in my mind, I'm like, hold up, you let Adam Copeland lose here. I'm kind of like, are you gonna let him beat John? I don't think that. No. Let's not do that. If someone's thinking of doing that, let's not do that. So that's where my mind went. Like, no, I don't.
Yeah,
no.
as soon as Moxley won, I thought, oh shit, Adam's getting the win at Revolution for the title. He's got you now.
No, he is not Daniel Bryan. Sorry, Bryan Danielson. So no.
But listen to what you get here, though, right? If Adam Copeland beats John Moxley for the title at Revolution, then you get Christian versus Edge.
No. We've already done. Number one, we've already done this. Number two,
that's true. That's true.
We did it for the appropriate title. We did it for the TNT title.
True.
Now, granted, last year, if you want to do this for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship, Christian was that big, so I wouldn't be opposed to that. Not however you get that, but no,
no.
Everyone.
And to be fair, those two shouldn't be dominating the main event scene anyhow. I mean, we've got plenty of younger guys and guys that serve those spots. Not that they don't, but they've already been there and done that. So, they're not doing anything now but putting a cherry on their careers, right? They're both Hall of Famers. They have nothing else to prove at this point. There's plenty of people that are still trying to carve out careers for themselves. So, no, I mean, that was my exact thought. Go ahead and finish your thoughts about the match. That was my exact thought when Adam Copeland got the win. I was like, oh shit. Or when Adam Moxley got the win, I thought that means Copeland's going to get the win at Revolution.
So even though they got the win, right? Great. No DQs are usually fun for me. They're usually fun. I was kind of like, because all of Death Riders came to beat up on Adam Copeland and Jay White. In my mind, I'm like, at TR, I don't want to buy a ticket to make sure your boys for good. I got y'all have friends. I'm like, no offense. So even though, yes, no DQ, it really is like, bruh, nobody wants to come and help out? Dang. But again, yeah, good, fun match. Match placement, I'm all here for it. I think this was great match placement for all of the matches. So, yeah.
I enjoyed this a lot. Yeah, and I thought the match placement was very good. Next, we had a match where I definitely thought an Australian could have got the win, should have got the win, and would have benefited a whole lot from getting the win. We had, for the Continental title, Kazuchika Okada, your current defending champion, versus one member of the Hellhounds or Hounds of Hell, whatever that is. Hounds of Hell? Anyhow, Hounds of Hell, Mr. Buddy Matthews. And this is exactly what you would expect. Hard-hitting, high octane from Buddy. Not slow, but methodical. Okada is Okada, being Okada. At one point, he grabbed the title and was going to try to leave. And then, he ended up deciding to come back, but he kind of talking about or whatever, they ended up resuming the match. Um, there were definitely a lot of very close 3 counts, and Buddy had a lot of opportunities I thought to win that title, and they should have pulled that trigger a few times. I thought. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't get me wrong. I understand Okada is, one of the best wrestlers on the planet, and he's a huge name. He's one of the guys that's now, an anchor for your company that you brought in to be a big deal. At the same time, Buddy Matthews is amazing and hasn't ever really had a whole lot of opportunity to get over in a match against Okada. A win like that in his own country with the belt, where he can take that back to the Hounds of Hell, like it would do much more for him than it does Okada beating him. Let's put it that way. So in that regard, I was very disappointed. I thought this was one where they could have gone the other way. And I'm not a big Okada fan, and I am a huge Buddy Matthews fan, so I'm biased in and of itself. But I thought Buddy looked great, and Okada looked like Okada. I mean, what are you going to say?
Yeah. I totally agree with you. This is one of the times for an Ozzy should have won. More so because not even to me. So the Young Bucks are in Japan right now. They're the New Japan or whatever. I'm sorry, whatever company they're in, tag team champions. In my mind, so you don't have any plans for Okada. That's just me. So it's like if you don't have any plans for Okada, let us be a few. I love going back to 2023. I want to say yes. It was a mini feud with Darby and Samoa Joe, and they ping pong that title back, but it worked because they're both, is Darby and Samoa Joe. But also, it's like mini feuds, you can do that, in my opinion. So if y'all just want, and as a show of good faith, right? All of these, since Malachi Black left, and all these speeches, these rah-rah speeches of, you don't need him, we're going to support you, no matter what, we got your back. This would have been a nice show of good faith of, we actually are going to support you and Brody King and Julia Hart, and we're going to let you have the title. Again, not even that long. I know people want long title reigns to make sure it works, but sometimes hot potatoing it, that works too. So if you want to let Buddy Matthews have it for a good hot month, and then let him lose it at Revolution, that would have been fine. Like this, like sometimes you had to capture the moment, and that would have been a nice moment in Australia. Side note, he was wearing Rhea Ripley's jacket when Rhea Ripley was in Australia. I'm like, that is so cute. I love like, I'm not sure, but she's like, rock it for your wifey. I love it. That was so cute. But all in all, again, it's Buddy Matthews and Okada. So this was, nonetheless, no matter how we feel about who won, it was a great match. And hopefully, if you're gonna heat up Hounds of Hell. Don't be dangling the carrot like that. But it was good.
Yeah, and the reality is that I know Okada is Okada and he's a big name and whatever, but he really hasn't done a whole lot with that belt. It's not like his run has been all that impressive. I think he's had, maybe a half a dozen matches. So I mean, it's like, and he's had it for a while now. So I mean, it's it's time to probably do something different with that belt. So, again, it is what it is. I was very disappointed, but what are you gonna do? Bringing us to our main event of the night, for which the women held it down. Yes.
So they had a backstage, what you call it? Promo? Yeah, backstage promo, which was sorry, brain fart. Ospreay and Omega. And Omega is challenging. It sounds like Omega challenging Takeshita for the international title.
Correct.
How do you? I don't know how I feel about that. On one hand, the international title, right? That hasn't been. We have a whole lot of belts we haven't been doing nothing with. And in my brain, if you want to put that title on Omega and just let him have some great matches each week, if his body's up to it, that would be great. But it feels like if you do that, we'll have a Mercedes Mariah May situation where it's like, why is Omega only the international championship? It's like, so like we probably will have questions. I'm not sure. That match would be great. I love Takeshita, so I want if y'all want him to beat Omega one more time, I'm not mad at it either. But I wouldn't be mad at that program. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Omega is international championship. I mean, luckily Moxley has the world title, and the Death Riders have kind of been the premier storyline. So I don't know that it's. Let's just say that Moxley is not Mariah May, right? So it's a little bit different in that regard. But I understand what you're saying, though. I definitely get what you're saying. I think there's a little bit of more of a balance between Moxley and Omega than there is between Mariah May and Mercedes Moné.
Right.
But again, yeah, I mean, it definitely is. At the same time, Tony says all the time he wants those belts to all be considered equal, and whatever. Well, then putting the international title on Omega would definitely put it right up there with Moxley holding the world title and Okada holding the Continental Championship. So, I don't. And at this point, like, not that Takeshita hasn't been fine with the belt, but it hasn't been special. You know what I mean? So, I mean, maybe do something different for it. And a lot of people's favorite Kenny Omega was the belt collector.
Yeah.
So if he wants to win this and then maybe go on a little spree where he wins 2, 3, 4, I don't know what belts it would be, but I'm not necessarily opposed to that either. So,
Yeah.
I guess we'll end up seeing. But our main event, or their main event, was Timeless Tony Storm and Miss Mariah May in a rematch, for which Tony won or lost the last time, in which Mariah took the title from her. It hasn't been what I would call a very inspiring or awe-inspiring title run for Mariah May. She had a couple wins, but nothing that I would call tremendous. And the crowd loved Toni Storm being home in her home country. And she looked amazing, came out with Luther, and did the deed in what was a hell of a match to finish the show. I mean, a great main event. I mean, the women came and they showed why they deserved that main event spot. All the hype that was surrounded Mariah May when she showed up. Everyone knew what she was kind of capable of, and even those that didn't had heard. And we've seen it now a couple times, and her and Toni Storm have phenomenal chemistry. I love Toni Storm. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love Toni Storm. I have my own feelings about Toni Storm being the first ever 4-time AEW Women's World Champion, but that's just my own personal feelings about certain things. That takes nothing away from Toni Storm being amazing and all those things. There's just so many women I love that to hear that and to think of women that haven't gotten the chance, it's in that regard, it feels a little whatever. But, at the same time, she has put in the work and she's earned it. Timeless Toni Storm, the character itself, is amazing and brilliant. She's extremely over in that character. Everybody loves it. And, like I said, Mariah May hadn't really been doing anything with the belt anyhow. So if you're going to, I'd much rather would have seen Jamie Hayter in this position or, a couple other people. And Jade herself the belt before. So it's not like we haven't been here done that with her too. But I just, and again, nothing to take nothing away from Toni Storm. Okay. But she got the win in Australia and at home in the main event. It was a great scene. And yeah, she cried, held the title. It was an emotional scene. And yeah, what do you think overall? Mariah Mason kind of outside the ring and on ringside crying, and everybody, very happy for Miss Toni Storm.
So some people might say, hey, the first 3 Aussies lost, so you can build up to the last Aussie winning. To that I say, no.
No.
You don't need to do that, but fine, whatever. Because again, Toni Storm versus Mariah May, no matter what Mariah May's title reign was, and that wasn't her fault. It was just booking up for circumstances. When they're in the ring together, this was going to be this would have been the main event, and it should have been the main event. I love that. They, usually Toni Storm's in black and white, but she is in her home country, so her native flag was presented in her wardrobe. Yes, and again, this was a great match. That's insane to say that she is the first 4-time women's AEW world champion. Because I wouldn't, I'm not counting. And I'm like, what were the first two? Okay, I know that. Wow, that's a little bit of an eye opener, and a little bit of criticism of AEW. You gotta do better. You do gotta do a little bit better. But in this scenario, this was the right scenario. This is the right chance. Great match. Are we going to do a rubber match? Because Mariah May won one in Wembley, Toni Storm won one here in Australia. I think you got to, but on the flip side, we just talked about more women getting an opportunity. So in my mind, you don't. If they do, okay, I'll conclude this. If you're going to do a third match, you don't need the belt. You don't need the belt. I would prefer let Toni Storm lose it, and then you just have this. Because this rivalry goes beyond the belt, where you don't need the title up in here. So not sure when or where you want to do the third match, but you don't need the belt for it. So I'll just say that. But great match, great ending to a great show. Grading AEW Grand Slam.
Yeah, I was just gonna say you could. I could see like Mariah May costing Toni Storm the belt,
Right.
and then they have to, have the third match, like to put a bow on it.
Right.
At the same time, I get so tired of like the 50-50 booking. Right, they got to go 1-on-1, and then they have to have the final match. I mean, it's so cliche. But that being said, no, I mean my grade on this is it's definitely a solid A. I mean, part of me wants to give it an A plus. There's just a couple little things that keep me from giving it the A plus, which is just that I thought Buddy Matthews had won. I think it would have been an A plus for me on that end. And even, like I said, it's such a fine line between choreographed and botches. If it had just been a tight bit crisper at times, maybe in that opening match, maybe it would have been just a hair. But that being said, I still gave that match an A plus. So I mean, it's hard. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to say a solid A. What about you? It's an A teetering on A plus.
I'm leaning towards B plus A minus.
Yeah, interesting.
No doubt about it. This was a great show. It really was those little low points. Unfortunately, the D Riders versus Cope and Jay White. That's not even a low point. It was just like a it really was just that like you said. But Matthews should have definitely won, in my opinion. And the first match, but it was fine. So yeah, I'll go with my heart. B plus.
There we go. All right. So I gave it an A, and Nika gave it a B plus. I think that's all we're going to talk about. Two things. I know we do this on Winner's Circle, and I don't want to do too much, but two things apparently tonight, and I don't know if you've heard them because I know you don't wait until the last minute. No. Okay.
I'm going to mute you in the freaking chat. I'll just say
that. You heard about one of them. So you heard about one of them. What do you think about that? He came out, I guess, to talk to Obafemi. Are you here for it? Moose.
Listen, when they first started this last year, and they were like, we're going to do a TNA partnership with NXT. I think this was probably out of all of our thoughts. Oh, it's Moose versus Oba. So it really was like, finally, what the frick was wrong? What the frick took y'all so freaking long? Dad, gone it. I guess he had to put pen to paper on a multi-year deal. But yes, finally. Happy.
And rumor, and I don't want to spoil it, but I will because I'm terrible. But rumor is, because they work in TNA and now they have this thing, Fraxium said they're the greatest tag team of all time. And the Hardy Boys said, I don't think so. We're going to come to NXT and see what's up. So apparently next Tuesday, we're going to get Matt and Jeff Hardy on NXT. What do you think about that?
Listen, if hype was a word, if hype was a vibe, the Hardys are a vibe. And more like I said, there is a different energy with NXT. So I don't think the Hardys have ever been there. So just them feeling that, that's gonna be the biggest pop. That's gonna be That's gonna feel so freaking good, and the match gonna be great. Cause I love all four, so yeah, it's gonna be so good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always a little leery of, because Matt and Jeff are so kind of past that, the
Yeah.
few days in front of them that they have behind them. But, that being said, I think they're both still, able to get the job done for sure. And
Yes.
Fraxium's extremely solid. So, I think it should be a very good match. So I'm excited for it. I was always a Hardy Boys fan. So to see them back, in WWE and on NXT for the first time is very interesting, especially with NXT being as good as it is. So, and being a big NXT fan. So, yeah, and I'm here for that. So, all right. Oh, go ahead.
CM's not here, but I do have two clowns of the week.
Oh, yes, please.
Number one, the emotional crackhead who talked about the freaking ring being small in Australia. Get a life.
I didn't even hear that.
Yes. And so it was on Wrestle Talk, and they talking about the biggest talking point was everyone talking about was that ring small? Touch grass, bro. Like honestly,
what difference does it make? Does that mean that because the ring was small that Omega and Ospreay had a better chance of winning? That Okada? I mean, what difference does it make if the ring is small or not? I mean, who does it benefit? Who does it benefit?
Like those tiny little nitpicks. Shut all the way the freak up, bro.
It makes no difference one way or the other. Like,
come out. Did they like it was a bunch of crap where it's like, did they not have the measurements to bring up their own ring? They're this big company. Shut all the way up. As long as the ring ropes don't fall and everyone is safe and and everyone is safe and sound. And the match is great, and the matches were great. Shut all the way the freak up.
Who even notices that? Did you notice it?
I didn't notice it. Now, crazy enough, the bartender was like, "Is the ring small?" I'm like, "No, I don't think the ring small." Literally, this is what I said. I thought the setup of the whole Grand Slam made the rings look smaller, maybe. Like I said, it'd be one thing if it's like, oh wow, they're running into each other because the ring is so small. No, they weren't running into each other. Anything that was a little mishap was not because of the ring ropes or because the ring was small. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, it's fine. Like I said, all the criticisms of AEW because the ring is small, you numbnuts, really? Shut all the way the freak up.
And that's really all you have to complain about. I mean, that's literally, it's like, they have nothing legitimate to complain about, so they're going to complain about something fucking stupid.
You're picking a tick off of a freaking dog. That's how small the complaint is. And then complaint number two, the crackheads who emotionally talking about, Ricky Starks left AEW and now you're only on NXT. I'm sorry to bust your bubble, but I'm pretty sure NXT ratings have been AEW more than once. I am not saying this as an AEW hater. I'm saying this as a Ricky Starks fan. And y'all real life need to get y'all need to get y'all lives together, okay? That man didn't agree with creative. But he is good enough, or he should be on television. This is his choice. If you want to watch him, fine. If you don't watch him, fine. But it's like shut all the way the freak up.
And the reality is, look, if you're not getting used somewhere, getting used somewhere else is better than not getting used somewhere. And two, do you not? First of all, two things. NXT is extremely hot at the moment, so it's not. So it's not, I mean, I don't know, I'd have to look at the ratings to see, what it does in comparison to Dynamite, but I know it's beating Collision. So it's extremely hot at the moment. And two, it's also the stepping stone to Raw and SmackDown. It's not like Ricky Starks is going to just be an NXT lifer to say, oh, you went from AEW to NXT. No, he went from AEW to WWE. He's making his first debut on NXT. He will eventually be on Raw or SmackDown, and then what are you gonna say? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and it's a bunch of people that don't have a quarter or an inkling of the talent that the dude has, and are just haters and mad because he went somewhere else to get paid. And I mean, people don't want to admit it, and wrestling fans don't like to admit it. And at times I have issues with it too, just because of everything that comes along with the baggage of WWE. It is still, I don't care what you say, you can see it when people show up. WWE is still the pinnacle of their profession. Being in WWE, whether it's NXT, whether it's Raw, whether it's SmackDown, getting to those shows, getting on TV, getting to pay-per-views, getting to WrestleMania, that is really still what it is all about as far as professional wrestling goes. Yeah, AEW's provided great other alternatives, and so is TNA. It still is WWE, like it or not. It just is. There's nothing like it, unfortunately. It just is what it is, and wrestlers still feel that way. They say that. You can see it when they show up. That's still their dream. So, this is his dream, and here he is. So soak it in, love it, and shut the haters up.
And it's more so like just in both counts of the week, just wanting people's downfall. Get your life together. Like it really,
exactly. Right.
Like for you to be rooting for someone not to get promoted, or for someone who to not fulfill their dreams, or a show not to be good because of the ring. It's like, get your life together. Go outside. Let the sun hit your face because you're petty. And not even a good petty. You're the petty where, baby, you only fighting with yourself. And like nobody's fighting with you, baby. You're fighting with yourself. Get your life together.
No doubt, no doubt. If all you have to do with your life is sit around and criticize stuff like that, yeah.
Let's
you definitely need to get life. All right. So 2 clowns of the week. All right. Let's get to a little house cleaning, and then we will get out of here for the night. We should be back next week, hopefully with game week or game night. We would have done it tonight, but unfortunately, CM had some stuff come up, and Sammy's sick, so probably good it wasn't happening tonight anyhow. But on Tuesday nights, as you're here with us now, you can join us every Tuesday for the Cookout, where we all come together as best we can and talk about what's cooking up in the world of professional wrestling. 7:30 p.m. Pacific, 10:30 Eastern. On Friday nights, it's usually Sammy, Joe, and Anika watching SmackDown, starting at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, watching it in real time, giving you their real-time reactions and opinions to the show. Saturday morning, the Winner's Circle, myself, Sammy, Joe, and Anika reviewing Monday Night Raw, NXT, and Dynamite from the days prior, and grading each show, and the show with the highest grade is our winner for that week. So make sure and join us every Saturday morning, 8 a.m. Pacific, 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern. Then Saturday nights is all right. Our AEW Collision Watch Along, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. It's CM and usually somebody else. And if we don't have an actual watch along, CM will usually give you a rundown episode where she just recaps Collision and Asha Wrestling. So if we don't have one this week, you can check in for the rundown. And then on Sundays, starting, I believe, March 1st, that's the hope, is to get back to End of the Square Circle. Sundays at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, where myself and Sammy Joe play some sort of video game, battling it out. Usually it's WWE 2K. But when we come back, it could be Madden. Let's see. Check this. If you scan this QR code, it will take you to Linktree, and from Linktree, you can get to all of our social media from one place. We are at all these wonderful social media outlets, and you can interact with all of us or with any of us there. We want to hear from all of you, so please check us out there. Give us a follow, give us a like, whatever the case may be, and let us know anything you want to talk about, or, any way you want to interact. So, and then also, you can check out the audio version of the Cookout podcast. If you don't have time to sit and watch us talk at you, you can just listen to us on these regular podcast locations, as you can see on the screen. Thanks to Dolores, who does all that wonderful background production stuff. You guys are able to listen to the audio version of the podcast. So, as Dolores likes to say, we can cut out the lights. And until next time, peace.